to Ask the Drunk Physicist.
Yep.
This is Ask the Drunk Physicist, episode 1. Although we're not allowed to do episodes, so this is just the air date of sometime in late, whatever it is, April. Okay. Due to patent issues, this can't be an episode, if I remember right.
Explain to me the patent issues.
There's I know Adam Carolla's podcast is going through a patent issue right now, where someone patented episodes.
Oh, the name episode?
Like you do you call it episode 1, you call it episode 2, so they, I don't know, patented adding 1.
How can you do that?
I have no fucking clue. I have no clue. So this is Ask the Drunk Physicist. This is not episode 1. This is last week in April.
Or podcast 1.
Our podcast 1, if you will. Doesn't matter.
Hey, can we sing Happy Birthday? Because that's patented too, right?
I believe we can.
Oh, we'll get sued right off the air as soon as we do that.
Killed.
Yeah, the Beatles will come right after us.
Yes.
Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney.
Dead.
Yes.
Yeah. They'll kill us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here we are. I'm Mike, one of them, my colleagues.
This is Dan. And
This is Doug.
All right. So Dan, tell us where you can find us online.
right now, probably we started Twitter. Just go to The Drunk Physicist at Twitter. Also Facebook. Just type in The Drunk Physicist. We're somewhere there. You better be able to use Facebook by now to do that. And we also can be reached email, thedrunkphysicist@gmail.com. And you probably have to look up how to spell physicist online for about 50% of you.
Yes. Just type it in Google. It'll say, "Did you mean?"
Is that a good tactic? Right off the bat?
If you insult your listeners, I feel that's the best tactic.
Oh, okay.
And you probably want to stay away from the drunk physicians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely bad. Yes. Actually looked up The Drunk Physicist on Google before we started this. There's just a bunch of Onion articles about it.
Oh, okay.
So really, we're at a good start.
Yes. And we're almost as valid as that.
Absolutely.
All right. So the big thing about this is we are going to discuss current events in physics. We are going to discuss things that people don't know about science, things that people may think they know, but they really don't know. And also, we are going to discuss a lot of your stupid questions. And that's why we really need you to go on these Twitter, Facebook. Go there. Please put down some information, things you want to know about science. And we'll definitely try to help you guys out and probably make fun of you on the way.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Wow. Awesome.
By the way, Doug's laughing, and we should start this out with, Doug didn't do his homework.
I didn't. So you can be a physicist without doing your homework. Not a very good one.
Not a good one.
A drunk one. But you can be a physicist.
And so the other question is, why do we have to drink doing this? And Mike, do you want to answer that question?
Well, I don't think we have to drink, do we? I think we need to. I think the goal is, the questions in science are so bad that we have to drink to be able to answer them.
Yes.
Well, yeah, let me just interject here. Also, there's a lot of thermodynamics that goes into making alcohol. And a lot of thermodynamics was discovered in the process of figuring out how to distill whiskeys and so forth. So there is actually a connection between drinking alcohol and physics.
Yes. I'd say there's a connection to everything. I actually got in an argument the other day over somebody saying that physics was better than biology.
Wait, you got an argument saying it, so the person said biology is better than physics, or physics? They said physics was better than biology.
No, they said biology was better than physics, and it was more fundamental.
That makes no sense.
That's what I said.
Biology is easier than physics, that's for sure.
Yeah, dude.
No, okay. Let me. Biology studies more complicated systems, but the methods they have of studying these systems, not the same. If you ever, so for fun, I read, Richard Dawkins, right?
Yes.
He's like the big evolution guy.
Author of The God Delusion.
The God Delusion.
His first book.
The Selfish Gene.
The Selfish Gene, that was the one. A great book.
A great book, but if you look at so he would run actually computer simulations of these evolutionary processes, and the level of science, the level that he accepted as this is actually going to happen is much less than, say, in physics.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, and I get it. So you can't do the same kind of testing on an evolutionary system because it takes a longer time, blah blah blah. But then when you come to your conclusions, like Dawkins does, don't say 100% sure. like say okay within this certain
Within this,
level.
yeah.
And so that's the thing. That's my only complaint. Actually, but the Selfish Gene is actually an awesome book, and everyone should read it. But be skeptical.
As always with everything, I think "be skeptical" is probably going to be one of those sayings that we come up a lot with.
That you should trademark that.
Yeah.
Be skeptical.
I'm sure the skeptic societies in every town are doing that.
Oh, I hate those skeptic guys, by the way.
We will discuss this, yes.
I do not like them. But yeah, please be skeptical.
All right, so for right now, we're just going to have different segments. And right now, we don't even have names for those right now. So the first thing is, we're always going to have some topic of the day for science, physics, any type of field in the science realm. So the first one is, there was an article that was produced, and the name of the article, "The Big Bang Theory Questioned by Most Americans."
Yes.
And of course, Doug, you read this article, of course, right?
Yes.
I did not.
Okay.
Wait a minute, actually,
Hold on. We posted it and emailed it to you. What do you mean you didn't read it?
Hey, so this is. I'm gonna tell you what my students always tell me. I don't do email. I only do Facebook, which is actually not true. I don't do Facebook either. I do read email, but it's been a busy last week. That's all I can say.
All right, then.
So, can you give me the Cliff Notes summary?
Well, the Cliff Notes here. First of all, they just ask different questions, and this is just Americans, correct?
I believe it was only Americans.
Only Americans. Because I think a lot of parts of Europe, if you go to like Europe, they have a higher belief in, well, I don't even use the word belief.
It's not a belief. They have
not
a
a belief.
lack of belief.
Yes. So, one of the questions there was, smoking causes cancer. So, 82% of people said, absolutely. That is a fact. We agree with this. We're very confident in that. So, Doug, the universe began 13.8 billion years ago with a Big Bang. What percentage of Americans do you think are confident?
Well, first of all, I don't think that people even know, they have any clue. Like, if you said 13,000 years or 13 million years or 13 billion or 13.8 billion years, they'd be 13.8 million years. That probably sounds about right. Unless they're religious conservatives, and then they'd probably say like, well, none of those answers are correct. It's 4,000 years. But okay, well, the correct answer is, with current evidence points to the universe being about 14 billion years old. How many people actually knew that?
Or believed
just
it.
confident in that.
Confident. I would say like 40%.
Yeah, 21% are very confident.
Shit.
What about the Earth? 4.5 billion years old.
People should know that, and they should know that a little bit better, because in fact, there's a recent Cosmos episode, right? The guy who actually dated the age of the Earth. What was his name? Claire Patterson.
Yeah,
because he had a name like a girl. But actually,
that's a good way to remember that one.
Discovered something very cool. But he was able to actually date the Earth to about 4.5 billion years old. Okay, and so how many people would believe that? I would say, again, a little bit higher, maybe like 50%.
27%. Yes.
Wow.
Not bad.
Now,
that's a quarter, right? Almost.
Yes.
Of Americans.
And 36%, though, however, said with that, they are not confident at all. Like, there's no confidence at all about the Earth being 4.5 billion years old.
Yeah, well,
that's an odd one, considering the amount of evidence that supports.
Here's the thing. Maybe they just don't care. Maybe it's like, you know what? I go to work. I can do my work.
Like, what does it matter in my life?
And actually, there's a Sherlock Holmes episode where then his buddy Watson tells him, "Hey, Sherlock Holmes, do you know the Earth goes around the sun and not the other way around?" And Sherlock Holmes says, "Well, that has nothing to do with solving mysteries, and so I'm going to try to forget that fact as soon as I can, because it actually just distracts from solving crimes."
Wow.
So maybe that's the attitude.
They're so distracted by work that.
Yeah, exactly. So they're all like Sherlock Holmes, like solving some kind of deep, dark mystery that they don't want to know. That's just a joke.
No, it's good. Do you think it goes on a deeper meaning of science literacy?
Like, I don't think people are very science illiterate, and I think that's actually a problem in this country.
But we do teach that in our elementary schools, do we not? Or do you think teachers are more afraid to teach it because of the amount of like religious conservatism that goes on?
No,
Well, in certain areas, I would agree that religious preferences, I mean, they do pop up in the schools because the parents will complain if they said, like, how come you're not teaching my child that the earth is 6,000 years old?
well, you tell them because it's not. I was just at the
Oh, that totally works. We should try that next time.
I mean, you don't even have to do radioactive dating. The stuff that tells you the Earth is like 4.5 billion years old. You can go and look at things like the Grand Canyon.
Right.
And you
Hence
can,
the Cosmos episode.
Yeah, and that was also in the Cosmos episode. And you can see like erosion rates and stuff like that. There's just no way that the Earth is 4,000 or 6,000 years old. It's just absolutely impossible.
How about this question here? This one disturbed me the most of all of them. Childhood vaccines are safe and effective. What percentage of people do you think said, yes, I'm confident in that?
Hopefully everyone who didn't get a childhood disease.
53% said they're confident.
Half the people.
And 15% of people said not confident at all.
Wait, so now the thing, a good question is like, those people who said they're not confident, you need vaccinations to send your kids to school or to public schools, right? Yes. Or I think even probably private schools.
You can
right?
deny on religious grounds, though.
Oh, you can?
On a lot of places.
Huh.
Just like I remember the Sikhs tried to carry like the little daggers, I think it was, to school on their necklaces or something like that.
Huh. And can they carry daggers to school?
I think some schools allowed it, but I do believe the majority of them said no.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a preference that's set aside for certain protected things, and religion is obviously protected here in America.
Yeah, I would see like by not getting vaccines, then I guess
it hurts the herd immunity. That would be my case against that. I mean, and that's really what it's all about. It's this herd immunity where you vaccinate a large population so that those that are not vaccinated don't have to get it. So if you're very poor or you don't know about it or you just recently immigrated, you're not exposed to those diseases and spread them.
Yeah, so my thing is like, yeah, if you want to be ignorant and it's going to hurt you, just you, okay, whatever. But if you're going to be ignorant and there's a potential it's going to hurt someone else because you get a disease and then pass it on, it's not so good.
Yeah.
So, but really 15% of people saying like, vaccines like don't work.
Like they hurt.
We're talking about Americans, so.
Well, there was a lot of things in the news though about people who were very anti-vaxxers. I think one was it causes autism and things like that, which is absolutely untrue. I don't even know how to. It's so ridiculous, but people believe this kind of stuff. I mean, I think we likened to it stuff like this earlier to like faking the moon landing. It's. Sure, if you could get a laser and bounce it and shoot it off the reflector that's there. But
actually, a mutual friend of ours, let's call him Fred.
Fred.
He had the best argument for why the moon landings could not have been fake. The moon landings were during the Soviet times, right? If there was any chance at all that the landings were fake, the Russians or the Soviets would have screamed bloody murder. They were like, you guys faked it and stuff like that. But they knew it wasn't fake. And in fact, I knew some Russian scientists, and they actually listened in to the chit-chat between like the astronauts on the moon and NASA. And they, actually this is one nice thing. They actually said they felt proud for humanity. It wasn't a Russian on the moon, but they were like, that's good for humanity. Now,
that's cool.
The average Russian, though, would probably be like, it should have been a Russian on the moon, blah, blah, blah. But, scientists, they're like, this is just good for everybody.
Right. And I picture anyone from any country. You could be from Ethiopia, and they're going to, insert this person should have been there on the moon.
Right, yeah,
unless
national pride, whatever.
Yeah. Except, scientists, you generally have an idea that this is better for the population as a whole. At least I hope.
Yeah. Well, China recently landed like the Jade Rabbit on the moon. I thought that was very cool. That shows that China is actually doing something good in a good direction.
Right.
So that's good for us all.
Now, how about this one? This is the one that Mike really did not like. Inside our cells, there is a complex genetic code that helps determine who we are. So how many people, percentage-wise, do you think are confident about that?
DNA.
Yeah, so they're talking about DNA. Again, I'm going to go with 40%.
Oh, it's actually, for that one, 69% are confident about that.
Oh,
That's pretty good.
that's not bad. Hey, good for you. Good for you.
I was actually more disturbed on the amount of people that didn't, and I just
Not
can't
confident
fathom.
at all. Not confident at all.
Oh, wait, 60?
No.
No,
69% were.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
8% were. They said no DNA. That's made up. It
Right.
doesn't exist.
And I want to talk to those 8%. Like, if you're listening, like write us and why you don't believe DNA exists. I would love to
And
hear
please
this.
don't reproduce and don't use your.
Don't use that DNA.
Don't use your DNA.
Please don't. Yeah.
I think you could probably go to any university in America and just ask them if they could show you why DNA exists. I feel a professor would actually take their time to show you.
Yeah, so
that.
I mean, do the listeners know where this is coming from? This could be anywhere, right? So I was going to say, well, anyway, yeah, go to your local university and like ask any biology professor,
or give them a call, shoot an email, and set up an
Shoot an
appointment
email,
and
yeah.
ask.
Yeah. So, and by the way, since this is the Drunk Physicist show, let me put in a plug. Discoverers of DNA, Watson and Crick.
Yes.
And one of those guys, I don't remember which one, because this is the Drunk Physicist show.
Let's just say Watson.
Let's just say,
I like Watson.
okay, was actually a physicist.
Yeah. I think a lot of those early discoverers of almost everything were physicists. It just seems... I don't know. It just seems physics so permeated the scope of what was back in the day.
Yeah, and I mean, well, again, since this is a physics show, physics in some sense is very fundamental, and once you understand the basics, you can apply that to biological systems, chemical systems, different other systems.
Now, the other thing is, I couldn't find the article again, but I did see something with percentage-wise. And Americans and Europeans, they tend to have more scientific, they believe in more, I can't use the word believe again. They agree with a lot of these, accept these physics principles much more than Americans. And why do you think that is? And it's a very large percentage difference.
I think this actually has to do with state-sponsored religion a lot. So in England, where you have like a state church that you give tithings to. In Germany, when we were
that's true.
they actually you give a percentage to the church, and I think it's kind of saying like they've been so overwhelmed with this stuff for so long, it doesn't matter. It's like if you have a bum leg, right? After a while, you just kind of forget that it's even there, or however you want.
Or maybe like they already paid their stuff, so like, okay, now Sunday I can watch football or soccer or whatever.
Same, that's what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody watches football regardless of where they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
We watch football here in the United States. They watch football over there in Europe.
Right.
But yeah, that is true actually. So in Europe or in Germany, it does seem that there's more of like a discussion of like recent scientific results and so forth. And for example, like in the 20s and 30s, there was a Dutch scientist, De Sitter, who basically had some kind of new cosmological model, and basically this got into the papers and people were discussing it, and they drew political cartoons of De Sitter.
Yeah.
And so I mean, here
We have Dilbert.
we have Dilbert. Yeah. So
It's equivalent, really.
yeah. Dilbert, De Sitter. They both begin with D.
Now, should I use developed, or should I use first world or third world?
I don't know what's politically, nor do I care.
Yes. Okay, third world countries. The United States is on par with them with percentage-wise of what we consider the developing part of the world.
That's so awesome.
And our scientific percentages are much closer to them than they are to some of these, the more developed, let's say for this, India, parts of India's.
India's pretty big though, so
Yeah.
and they're upcoming. They really are.
So by the way, India's one of the BRIC countries. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but there were countries that call the BRIC countries, basically Brazil, Russia, India, and China, that were considered sort of the up and coming countries.
What about Kenya?
Kenya?
You really hurt me.
Yeah. Actually, to really make it correct, you'd have to throw Kenya in there or Kentucky.
It wants to be its own country, I'm sure.
They make a damn good bourbon.
Yeah.
But there was this idea. There were these countries that were not yet fully developed in the sense of Western Europe or the U.S. or Canada or so forth, but that were like up and coming. And look at Russia now. Invading Ukraine,
Flexing their muscle. But scientifically, I mean, Russia, are they still producing a lot in terms of a scientific output, physics-wise? I haven't heard a lot. China, definitely.
China's definitely good as far as science, and they're up and coming. India, they have a lot of good theoretical physicists. Basically, I don't think they invest as heavily as we do or Western Europe does in like the experimental aspect of, say, physics. Brazil, actually, they do spend a good portion of their GDP on science.
Nice.
When I was in Germany, there were a lot of Brazilian physicists and scientists and so forth there that were being funded by the Brazilian government to go over there and do research. And they also have a lot of research positions, which I'm trying to like figure out how to apply for to go to Brazil, and do research there. So
that would be cool.
The only thing that stops me is I was reading something. They say that like Brazilians are like really into like dressing and like
looking good.
So like looking good, like so you don't look like a physicist.
Okay.
And so that's like.
Well, what does a physicist look like? Does everyone have this like Albert Einstein-esque like idea in their head?
Rumpled and not dressed very well. Look at us, man. Come on.
We look awesome. I know. We would fit in good with Brazil.
Yeah, we're ready for Brazil.
In fact,
I'm just talking about the other physicists.
That's right.
And part of the reason we are doing a broadcast is we just don't want to intimidate everybody, all the listeners, with our extremely good looks.
Well, that's the key. That's actually why we're not videotaping this at the moment. It has nothing to do with Dan's camera problems. It's absolutely the fact that we are way too good looking, and we would actually just intimidate the physics community at large, I think.
Yes.
Now, let's go on to our third segment here. We don't want to get shut down for our podcast.
No,
we want to make sure
not.
we're running all the time. We want to make sure that we're aired in all the different states of the United States and across the world.
Not just the coast.
Yes. So what we have to do is we have to give equal time for creationism. And Doug, you are going to be I'm
going to be the creation person?
Yeah, you're the...
No. Well, we put online that you said you do agree with these principles and that you would give arguments for this, correct?
Yeah. Oh, I would? Yeah. Good. So actually, that's the thing. I can argue about anything. You can appear me.
Yeah.
But I mean...
Well, we're only, like 3 beers in.
Yeah. So, since you didn't come up with any type of argument, you didn't develop anything here, Doug, we had to come up with one for you. So
okay.
You are going to have to read this here.
Remember, I didn't do my homework, guys.
Yeah. So
that bottom paragraph is you. You weren't there argument.
Yes.
Oh, you weren't there. Okay. We observe things in the present, and we're assuming that has always happened in the past. Ham explained. Wait, is this Ham from the Bible?
No.
Okay.
Hey, Ham from the Bible wouldn't be that smart.
Oh.
I think as Sam Harris put it, a wheelbarrow would have blown their mind, in technology.
So I guess just giving somebody a piece of paper I haven't read is not a good idea to do. So I have to actually give a little bit of an introduction to this. This is from argument that was recently put online for Bill Nye, and I believe Ken Ham is his name?
Ken Ham.
Yep. And the arguments there, they had a 2-hour debate, and really it should have been a 3-minute debate. But it was about 2 hours in length, and Doug, you are going to be our Ken Ham today. So make your argument. Make your arguments for creationism.
Okay.
No, it's just at the bottom of the page. Just read the thing. Jeez.
You weren't there.
Yeah, you weren't there argument.
Okay, so we observe things in the present, and we're assuming that has always happened in the past. Ham explained. Okay,
that's you.
I'm Ham. Okay, so
your hair. Come on.
Okay.
Doug's horrible at role playing.
Okay. But there's a significant weakness in using modern scientists to explain the past. You've got a problem because you weren't there.
Ooh, that hurts. I believe in that.
That does hurt.
Yeah.
A well thought out argument. I'm at a loss for words, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, You
basically shut me down. Well done, Doug Ham.
Yes.
Woo. So says Ham reflectively though. I wasn't there during Genesis, so by my own argument, that seems.
That's a suspicious argument. You have God was there though. I believe is the
Yeah.
or something.
Oh right, and I'm saying God talked to me. Yes, that's right. And only crazy. No. Only crazy people would know. No.
So, Doug, did you see the debate? Actually, did you watch it?
No, actually, no. Now that you mention, I did hear about it, but yeah,
It was pretty weak. I have to admit. Like, if you, it's worth a watch.
no. The thing is, like, I mean, the people that argue in this way, there's nothing you can do to convince them otherwise, and so like, that's the difference between scientists, and that's the way sometimes why science seems so weak in comparison with religion, because we actually have to like think, well, let's take in the evidence and to the best of our ability come up with a reasonable conclusion that fits that evidence. See, the religious people, they aren't like bound by that same stricture. They just make shit up. Like, oh hey, by the way, I didn't know we could get kicked off. So if we curse a little bit,
no, actually, this is the glory of podcasting is you could curse all you want and say anything you want. The internet so far is unregulated in this respect.
No, that's true. They live naked ladies on the internet. So
Yeah, that's right. I know.
And we actually have a couple around here as well.
Yeah.
But
we do, because
We keep them quiet though. No mics on the naked ladies.
No. And who would want them? All right.
So that's a good point on the arguments. I'm trying to remember. This was actually brought up before on this argument. Is that Dan and I were thinking of this because actually people wanted equal time on Cosmos. It's because they thought it was so pro or anti-Christian. It's just pro-science. It doesn't. I think you need to understand if you're pro-science, it doesn't mean you're anti-religion by any means.
No,
It's not. Yeah, it's not an argument for that.
there are actually many scientists who are religious and have religious beliefs. It's just you don't have to take everything so damn literally.
Yes.
I mean, who's to say like 7 days meant like 7 literal days like now? I mean, and who's to say like if you want to believe in a God that he didn't somehow set up the physical laws of the universe in such a way that we end up with something that we have now?
Right.
I mean, you can believe that or choose not to believe it. That's fine. And science isn't going to answer some of those questions. So it's not going to answer moral questions for you and so forth. But you don't need a religious trapping to realize, what's good and what's not.
Now, have you ever read, either of you read Sam Harris before?
No.
He's a neuroscientist and philosopher, if you will, and he actually does a good point on arguing science of morality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a very interesting read in a couple of his books, where he argues for it. And yet, I can't do it here. I just, if you're listening or if you're just listening, look up Sam Harris. He actually does some great debates or speeches or talks, I would say, lectures even online about the morality of science. It's really cool.
So I'd be interested. So like, I mean, from a scientific point of view, I mean, so there are certain like sort of ethical things like you shouldn't kill other people,
right? And those laws actually predate almost all biblical laws, or they do predate all biblical laws.
Right, because in some sense they make sense. But I mean, I don't know if you could, from a scientific point of view, say, okay, there's some scientific reason why it's not good to kill people.
He has an interesting. It's more on the philosophy side of it, but that's a decent argument, and I think he goes from the premise of, imagine the worst possible existence of all time, and if you can imagine, if you say there's worse, then there's something you're not imagining enough, and he starts that as the base. Now, anything better than that, anything more is obviously better, and he just kind of argues from that point, taking the most extreme case and then arguing further along the lines. It's an interesting argument. I'm sorry I didn't do my research on this one before I came.
I wasn't the only one that didn't do that.
Yes, that was not an impromptu question.
However, the big thing about this, me and Mike, we can never be wrong. So
yeah, you really have to understand.
Even
that.
if you put in your Twitter comments like, no, that fact was not correct.
Yeah,
it is correct. You're just wrong in your findings on the internet. Research a little bit harder. We can never be wrong.
Yes.
So wait, let me get this correct. Dan, never wrong. Mike, never wrong.
Correct.
Doug, maybe 50-50 at best.
You're shooting along with the DNA.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll give you 67%.
Okay. That's why you gave me the ham.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We gave that to you, too, because whenever we do have any type of advertisements or anything that is done, I mean, your voice is just beyond. I mean, they just request that you say these things.
Yeah.
So if we do have advertisement, we do have our first sponsor of the day, which is coming up in a little bit.
It's coming up. It has to. I can only imagine.
Yes, but they actually requested that you actually read the advertisement for the company.
Yeah.
Huh.
You're our advertiser spokesperson.
Yes.
Now I feel much better. Okay.
So I just have to have you watched Cosmos? Either of you, have you been keeping up with it?
I've watched Cosmos, but one thing that they do on the show, and for me, I don't need it. They actually do bash creationism more often than they really should. And for me, it's kind of like, why even bother? Why go down that route? I mean, but according to some of the data that we talked about before, of people that believe in some of these creationism ideas, I guess that's why they're putting that forth, is for people not to believe in those ideas.
It could be. And we know Carl Sagan was very, I don't know if I'd say anti-religious, but very pro using reason and skepticism.
He was atheist.
He
actually,
completely. So our mutual friend Fred, actually, he's seen both the old Cosmos and the new Cosmos, and he likes the new Cosmos better because he says Neil deGrasse Tyson is less stridently anti-religious. Like, it's Fred's idea was Sagan actually went out of his way to kind of say, like, look, guys, you're nuts if you believe in a creator and blah 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 like that. And Tyson's like, you can believe if you want. I mean, that's sort of his other thing. But if you want to talk about science, you want to talk about like how the universe is structured, okay, then you're playing in our ballpark. And then
Tyson's right on that point.
Yes, don't get me wrong. Like he's right. But the thing is, what Fred was saying is that Neil deGrasse Tyson like understands a little bit better how to talk to like maybe the creationists to try to win them over. Where Sagan, he was just like, you guys are idiots. I mean, it's patently wrong, which it is. But
this Fred guy is coming up quite a bit. I think we need to invite him to one of our podcasts.
We should definitely have a Fred.
Yeah,
perhaps the Fred on the podcast.
The Fred, yeah.
So I'm trying to think back. Now I saw the original Cosmos too, and actually I borrowed quite a long time ago in my undergrad years the DVDs from Sergio.
Oh, if you want, I have VHS tapes of it.
I no doubt.
You can
so no, it was good. I watched it, but I don't remember Carl Sagan ever having. I'm actually trying to think back to the original Cosmos series to remember that those spots where he had actually was very anti-creationist.
Or you maybe, I mean, we would have to go back and watch them to see those points.
Yeah, we may have to.
Well, and actually that's a good point you bring up, because now I haven't seen all the old Cosmoses, but I've seen some of them, and actually some of the new Cosmoses, they borrow some from the old ones, like that in the first one or second one they had like an animation where they basically went through
the cosmic calendar one.
Yeah, cosmic calendar, how the molecules turn into fish and
yeah.
And I think that was directly from the first Cosmos.
I believe that one was, right? Yeah.
And so I haven't seen all the old Cosmoses to see like those parts where Sagan was like stridently anti-religious, but our friend Fred, he knew other things of Sagan other than Cosmos, and so it could well have been something other than what was directly in Cosmos that he was criticizing Sagan about. Or
I mean, I have Contact. He wrote Contact, and
did he say anything bad about like religious?
Well, yeah. I mean, the antagonist in the movie was obviously a religious person who blew up the.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Not not the best role model.
Yeah. But I'm trying to remember. He wrote another book, and I remember I never read it, but I think it dealt more with the religious side of things, and understanding how you would go about observing something and making conclusions on it.
Well, Dawkins is definitely like anti-religious.
Oh yeah, he's definitely.
I mean, because he's like not only is this not correct, it's actually harmful.
Yeah. Right. And there's a point to that. I mean, if you're teaching that as truth, you can't make predictions based on. I can't think of something out of the Bible. Now, I used to be religious too, quite a long time ago, and there was nothing predictive about it, and that's the problem. So if you teach it in school, right, as anything more than a literature class, then you're really taking away from the students, because what are they going to learn? The school has to be more than memorization. I mean, if that was the case, we'd have computers for everything, which we almost do, but that critical thinking element of saying, oh, I know this and I know this, therefore I should be able to figure out this, that's completely gone.
By the way, back to creation, right? And stuff that's been in the news recently. Have you guys heard of the BICEP 2 results?
The BICEP 2 results? No.
Yes.
Enlighten.
You mean this gun and this gun?
That's right. Mike, that gun and that gun. No, there's a recent experiment from the Antarctic where they were measuring polarization of the cosmic microwave background radiation. So
yes, I did read something on this.
you did? So, and it's a brand new result, and it's basically like further evidence for an early inflationary period of the universe. So, in the Big Bang, I mean, our understanding has progressed from the time it was actually proposed to now. And the idea is, in the very early stage of the universe, there was a period of time when the universe increased by an order of magnitude in size about 60. So it went from like 1 to 10 to the 60 in size in just fractions of a second.
Yeah, mini fractions of a fraction.
It's like
Doug's actually underestimating the small amount of time that's going on here.
So it's like billionths of a billionth of a billionth of a trillionth of a second, something like that. Anyway, so the universe underwent this inflationary period, and connected with this, it was supposed to have generated gravitational waves and basically fluctuations in the temperature. Now, experiments have seen the fluctuations in the temperature where basically the 2.7 something.
And that's the
Kelvin.
WMAP we're talking about.
Right. So the WMAP experiment has mapped these slight variations in the temperature as you go across the sky. But there was also a prediction from inflation that if you look, there would be these the light or the radiation coming from the Big Bang would be polarized, and it would be polarized in a particular way. And depending on how it was polarized, this would be evidence for gravitational waves generated by the Big Bang. So there was this whole and this was the prediction. And recently it was announced, like about 2 or 3 weeks ago, by this experiment. I don't know what BICEP. So whoever named that experiment, they should have thought something better. It means something like.
Big inflationary or
big
something.
inflationary cosmic. I think the P is polarization, actually.
Okay.
P is polarization, but
it is BICEP.
It's bicep, just like your arm, right? And they were studying the polarization, and they were looking at two things. There were things called E modes and B modes. So basically, what an E mode is if you look up at the sky and you go around and you look at the polarization of the microwave background, you'll see sort of like a radial pattern, right? Or like a circular pattern. So if you go around the sky, you'll see like a circular pattern or like a radial sun pattern. Then the gravitational waves would cause B modes, and B modes look like a pinwheel. So basically as you go around, there's like a sort of pinwheel pattern, either left-handed or right-handed. And the B modes were actually the smoking gun signature of gravitational waves and of inflation and so forth, and they actually found these things. And so, I mean, again,
That's pretty cool.
It is. And so,
And there's a 50% chance he's making all this crap up.
Now,
Google BICEP 2.
yeah. Is there now? Here's the thing: is there any other model that also predicts this as another result of something else?
No. So, not at present. Now, that's not to say that someone might not come up with some other model that also predicts like the E modes and the B modes and additional things. But that's how science works. So all you can say is, to the best of our understanding, this is what inflation predicts. And actually, hey, we've seen it. Right. And so now let's suppose that some other competing theory comes along.
BICEP 3.
BICEP 3. And they also they predict like this inflationary expansion of the universe. They predict the E modes and the B modes, but then they predict something different from the inflationary theory, and people go out and look for that. And if they find it, then inflation is out and the new theory is in.
Right.
If they go out and look for it and they don't see it, then the new theory is out and inflation is in. The thing is, as of now, there are no other competing theories, and that's not to say there might not be. It's just we haven't been clever enough to think of them.
Right.
Okay. And so if you're so conservative, you want to have a literal interpretation of the Bible, but yet for some unknown reason you still want to have some kind of veil of scientific legitimacy. That's the challenge. Find some theory. There's evidence out there that you can then put your theory up against and see, does it match up or not? And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, You're
Try
wrong.
again. Try again.
Try again. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, that's a better way of putting
Yeah.
it. Like, not you're wrong.
Well, you are wrong.
You are wrong.
And you're shunned in the physics community.
However, wasn't there a point that you were working with somebody who actually did not believe in any of the math that you were doing, the physics that you were doing?
Oh, yeah. So that's true. There was a Russian colleague of mine who was actually Orthodox Russian.
Did we ever get to meet him?
No.
Was his name Fred?
His name was
Oh, wow. Too bad.
But really top guy. But he was basically a mathematical physicist, and he actually worked on cosmology. But he actually sincerely believed that what he was doing was just math, and that it was like a math game to him. And he was actually very good at it, but he didn't actually believe the predictions that.
So he just come up with these models,
Yeah.
and then see them through to fruition, and then go, yeah, this is the math.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean anything.
And he told us, so I was like, that seems like sort of a contradiction. And he says like, no, I talked to my bishop, so the bishop of Moscow or whatever, and when he said, I do have this conflict. I'm a physicist, and I'm working on these models that predict that the universe is like billions of years old, and there's this inflation thing, and like E modes and D modes. But you guys are telling me it's only 6,000 years old. I mean, or is that a problem with you? And he's like, no. Just view it as a game. It has nothing to do with your religious self, and work like that. So, but see, so that is kind of odd.
That is really odd. That has to be hard internally. I mean, when he sleeps at night, he may say that to himself during the day, but I mean, come on, when you're tired and you're really thinking about this kind of stuff,
but I think
that has to be it. I mean,
but I actually, so the bishop that he was talking to, I think it's a little bit more understanding than what you would get here. Like, I'm looking at like, someone here going to their, like, say, pastor who's like very
right.
conservative, and the earth is 6,000 years old, and saying the same thing. The guy would probably like, oh, just stop doing science, quit.
Probably.
I don't know, but I mean, I've never seen an example that where like a U.S. scientist has fundamentalist belief but works on cosmology, goes and talks to his pastor,
right?
And then the guy goes.
In the 1500s, they would have killed those people.
Yeah,
oh, that's true. That's true.
I don't think you have to go so far as the 1500s. It's pretty bad. I mean, we're still kind of shunned every once in a while with this kind of stuff.
So I think we have to take our first break, sponsored by our first fake sponsor, Guinness.
Yes, Guinness, our first and best fake sponsor of the not the episode of the podcast number 1. So Guinness, may I thank you, Doug? Can you beer us all one more time?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Guinness.
We appreciate that.
Cheers.
Oh, they don't clank very well. You gotta
Yeah.
kind of hit them. Yeah.